Hello there, my bookish folks. Welcome or welcome back to the Chronicles of a Reader. And I am the aforementioned reader, Warsha. I'm so delighted to have you all here. It's the beginning of a brand new month, and that means it's time to get to a whole lot of new books. For the month of August, I've picked out quite a few titles that I do want to get to. I don't know how many I'll actually end up reading, but I hope that it's all of them. Firstly, the two books that I must absolutely get to are the ones that I borrowed from the library. First, we have Pau by Mo Yan, translated by Howard Goldblatt. This is a carryover from the month of July. I started reading this on July 26th, and I'm currently over halfway through the book. This follows our protagonist, Luo Xiaotong, who grows up in Slaughterhouse Village, where everyone is a butcher in the Chinese countryside. At the beginning of the book, we see him narrating the story of his life to an old monk who he hopes will take him upon as a prospective novice. As a child growing up in Slaughterhouse Village, Xiaotong is obsessed with eating meat. In fact, he finds that the sole purpose of his life. Throughout the book, we see meat as a metaphor for the social and political changes that are happening in China at the time. The book is divided into two timelines, which oscillate between the past, where we see Xiaotong growing up in the village, and the present moment, where we hear his inner monologue as he is narrating the tale. This book is obviously a highly acclaimed work of fiction because we see that it has won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2012. But that also means that it is completely going over my head. I am literally not understanding anything that's happening. Obviously, I can understand the words themselves, but the overall message and theme of the book is just flying right over my head. So once I'm done, I'll need to look up a few papers and articles explaining what the book was all about, and I'll let you know my thoughts then. The next book that I need to read from the library is The Once and Future Wishes by Alex E. Harrow. This book is a historical fantasy that intertwines the suffragette movement with witchcraft in the 19th century America. We follow the Eastwood sisters, James Juniper, Agnes Amaranth, and Beatrice Belladonna, as they join the women's movement and discover a hidden connection between it and the old ways of magic. But when they are threatened by sinister forces, they must delve deeper into their power, draw new alliances, and heal the bond between them if they want to survive. Laini Taylor describes it as a gorgeous and thrilling paint to the ferocious power of women. The characters live, bleed, and roar. This book seems right up my alley, and I'm certain that I'll enjoy it a whole lot more than Pau, which I'm currently reading. Next, we have Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. Now, this is a genre that I rarely ever read from because it is contemporary romance, something that I'm not particularly interested in, but this is one of the books that I borrowed from my friend, and I might as well check it out. Here we follow Luke O'Donnell, whose rock star parents split up when he was young. But now that his father is making a comeback, he needs to clean up his public image and avoid scandal. So he enters into a fake relationship with the barrister Oliver Blackwood, who is the definition of a decent, well-mannered person. So initially they aren't too thrilled about the arrangement and are merely driven by desperation to keep up appearances. Over time, their relationship becomes more complex as real feelings blossom between them. Now, my friend told me that I wouldn't really like this book because of its writing style, and I do see that there is quite a bit of swearing, which I'm not a big fan of, but I think other than that, this will be a very cute read. Next on the list, we have the very famous A Coat of Thorns and Roses by the equally famous Sarah J. Maas. Now, this is a series that me and my friend are doing a buddy read of, so this is a carryover from June. We haven't been making much progress in our buddy read, which is a pity because I'm really enjoying this book, way more than I thought I would. Since this is a book that got a lot of hype on Booktube and Book Talk, I thought it would be another one of those trashy fantasy romances, but it's surprisingly well written and it's just a fun time in general. We follow 19-year-old Feyre, who's a huntress struggling to keep her family alive. And when she accidentally kills a wolf who was actually a fairy in disguise, she is taken across the border separating the human and fairy realms as punishment for breaking the peace treaty. But there she discovers a dark curse that is threatening to take over the world and putting everyone at risk, including her family. And she becomes involved in a quest to break the curse and free the land from it. I hope to be done with this series by the end of this year at least. I don't know how realistic that is, considering the books are all extremely hefty. They become thicker as the series progresses, but we'll see. Next, we have Astra, The Quest for Star Song by Aditya and Arnav Mukherjee. This is a middle grade fantasy based on Hindu mythology, and after how much I absolutely adored the Torchbearers, I think I'll really love this one too. Here, the world is under threat as Ravana, the king of Lanka, attempts to awaken Star Song or Taragita, the mythical astra of the gods that would make him invincible. We follow a protagonist, 12-year-old Varkan, who is the prince of Ashmaka, held as a captive in a tower since he was young, ever since his father, the king, died and his mother went mad, by orders of the regent, his uncle Malsa. But when he manages to escape from his prison, he must lay claim to his destiny as the wielder of Star Song in order to save the world itself. The next two books that I want to get to are The Secret Shanghai Duology by Chloe Gong. So These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends. The series got a lot of hype when it first came out, and till this day it continues to be one of the most loved series on Booktube, but personally I'm not very interested in reading it. The reason that I'm still forcing myself to pick it up is because I borrowed Foul Lady Fortune from my friend, and that is a spin-off of this series. So if I haven't read this one, it will spoil quite a lot of things. And I'm a reader who absolutely detests spoilers. I will try to avoid them at all costs, even if it means subjecting myself to reading over 700 pages, just to avoid spoilers for a book that I borrowed. It is a historical fantasy retelling of Romeo and Juliet set in 1920s Shanghai. We follow Juliet Tsai and Roma Montague, heirs to rival gangs, as they must navigate the tumultuous past and current tension to confront a mysterious, monstrous threat that emerges and threatens both their worlds, despite their fractured relationship and the dangerous political landscape. Okay, now that I'm reading the synopsis, it does seem a lot more interesting. The reason I'm a bit skeptical of whether I like this is because it's set in 1920s China, so that's the Minguo period, and whenever I try to watch C-dramas set during that time period, I'm not a big fan of them. So perhaps reading it in book form will increase my enjoyment. After I'm done with those two, I can finally get to this behemoth. Look how thick it is. It's over 500 pages. This is the first book in a spin-off duology that follows new characters, and it's set after the events of the first duology. Here we follow Rosalind Long and Orion Hung, who are a pair of spies posing as a married couple to investigate a series of brutal murders that occur in 1930s Shanghai, so a decade after the first book. This one does seem more interesting to me than the original duology, so hopefully I'll be able to push myself through that and then have a good time with these two. There's also a few short stories and a novella, I think, that is set in this world, so I do want to check those out because when I read a series, I like to read all content published about it. Yet another carryover, this one from the month of June actually, is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tang. Now this one I'm reading on my own, so I honestly have no excuse for why I'm not completing it. Well, I do. I'm reading it digitally on my phone, and that's not a format that I really enjoy reading in, but you take what you can get. It's not the book's fault. I'm absolutely loving it. It's based on the Chinese legend of Chang'e, or the moon goddess. Here we follow Xingyin, who is the daughter of Chang'e, hence the title, and the mortal archer Hoi, but her existence is a secret from everyone. If the other gods come to know of it, both her and her mother's life are at stake. But when her powers flare up when she turns 18, her mother is cast under suspicion, and she has to leave her home on the moon and venture into the celestial kingdom, where she attempts to free her mother from her eternal imprisonment on the surface of the moon. This book is written so beautifully. It reads like a C-drama. You can see all of the scenes play out right in front of your eyes, and it's absolutely wonderful. I only have 150 or so pages left before I'm done with the book, so I'll definitely get to it this month. Next, we have City of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Mortal Instruments trilogy, which is also the second book written in the entire Shadowhunters universe. These books constitute the holy grail of the books that got everyone into reading when they were published. Starting the series is something that has been long overdue for me because I do want to get on the hype train and see why everyone is losing their minds over the Shadowhunters. I heard that this series is definitely the worst one so far. Not that it's bad, just that the other series are better than it. But I do want to read the series in the order it was published in, so I'll eventually get to the ones that everyone loves, like The Infernal Devices or The Last Hours. This series probably needs no introduction, but if for some reason you haven't heard what it's about. At the beginning of the series, we follow 15-year-old Clary Frey, who sees her very normal life being upturned as she discovers that she's actually a shadow hunter, basically a human-angel hybrid who is tasked with protecting the mortals from demons. So this is an urban fantasy book, and along with the humans, there also exist downworlders, who are basically every other supernatural being you can think of, like vampires, werewolves, fairies, you name them, you got them. We follow her adventures along with a group of other young shadow hunters, and together they'll have to rid the world of a dangerous threat. The previous book ends on a kind of cliffhanger, so I'm excited to see where the series will continue on from that. This book is rife with a lot of tropes that used to be popular during the 2010s, but now are quite problematic. So I hope that as I make my way through the rest of the books, they'll progressively just keep on getting better. And with that, we come to the end of my August TBR. It is a mighty stack to be sure, but I think I'll be able to get to most of them, if not all of them. After all, you have to believe in yourself when it comes to these things. What have you all been reading? And what do you plan to read this month? Do let me know in the comments below, along with any other video suggestions you have for me. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a like, as that would help me out a lot. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. Looking forward to seeing you all in my new video. Catch you later. 再见.